So in this video in Fortnite Creative, we're going to build a very basic King of the Hill type level. Now, a King of the Hill type game mode is one where there are two teams that compete against each other to try and take control of a capture area. And as long as they have players within that area, their team will score points, and it's the first team to a set number of points to win the match. Now, all we've done so far is we've set player spawn points for Team 1 and spawn points for Team 2, and we've just built a very simple raised platform area. Now, the only device you need for this game is a capture area device from our devices gallery. So if we equip that, we'll place that down in the middle of our raised area. Now, what we need to do is change some of the attributes of this capture area so we can set up our King of the Hill game. So if we go in, and the first one we're going to change is the capture radius. Let's make that a little bit larger. If we change that to 1 tile, we can see how that's a bit larger on the level. That's changed it so the radius of this circle is now 1 Fortnite tile. If we go in, and we'll go through some of the options that you need to change to set this up for a King of the Hill game. So what we don't need is all these ones that mention item. We don't need those because they would be used in matches such as capture the item or capture the flag, and we've covered those in other videos, so we don't need that. But these are the crucial settings, the periodic scoring. Now, the way this is going to work is for every so many number of seconds that a player is in this capture area, they will score a point. So we need to be able to allow this capture area to be scored by all teams. So we change that to all. And we want periodic scoring to be on. And we can set that as each player, or 1 player per team, or an owning team. Now, each player means that for every player in this area, each player will cumulatively gain a score for their team. 1 player per team means if you have 1 player in there or 10 players in there, the score will be the same. So we're going to set that to 1 player per team. And then the periodic scoring time. So what that means is if the player is in this capture area for this 1 second, they will gain a score. We're going to up that to 5 seconds. You can set that to what you want. It goes all the way up to several minutes. And then crucially, the periodic score value. So for every 5 seconds that a player or players are in this area, what score do you want that team to be awarded? And we're going to set that to 5. So every 5 seconds the team will be awarded 5 points. And then crucially, what we're going to set here is the enemy's contest scoring. Now, what that means is that if you've got a team of players in this area and then an enemy team or an enemy player enters this area, it prevents this 5 seconds from ticking up, which means no one can score if there are players of both teams in this capture area. So we're going to set that to yes. And then the rest of the options aren't applicable to our King of the Hill games. These are for capture the item type games or for capture the area type games, both of which we'll have videos on our channel covering how to build those in Fortnite Creative. So if we OK that, those settings that we've made there are the minimum settings you need in order to have a King of the Hill game. But what we need to do is we need to go into our My Island menu, and we just need to check that our game settings are set up for a King of the Hill type game. So we've set this to 2 teams. We've got 2 sets of spawn pads, 2 teams. You can have multiple teams, anything more than 2, but we're going to keep this at 2 for the time being. We can have a team size, and we can set that to split evenly, which means that both teams should have the same or similar numbers of players. We can set a time limit. Again, we're just going to leave that 5 minutes because this is just an example and the bare minimum. We're going to set the most score wins from the win condition. And this is a key one. The game needs to understand what the end condition is, what ends the game. We know that the capture area will award 5 points for every 5 seconds that a player is stood in that area uncontested. We're going to set that to 50 points. If that was set to nothing, the game would not know how to end. So we're going to set that to 50. And again, there are other options that you can change depending on how you want to set your game up, but we're going to keep the bare minimum. And if we go to UI, user interface of what we see on the screen, we can set the heads up display info type to score. Now what this does is that will let each team know what score they're on, and it will let them know what score they need to get to in order to win the game. And then crucially, we need the win condition. We set the end condition as being you have to reach a set score, but we have to tell the level what is the criteria for winning, and we're going to set this to score. So once the players hit 50, the game will look at the scoreboard, and the team with the highest score will be the ones that trigger the win condition and win the game. So we've set that, and if we start the game, hopefully we can see that happen. Okay, so let's start the game and see what happens when our player walks into this control area. Remember, we set it to give a score of 5 every 5 seconds, and there we go. We can see that score is ticking up. Now you'll remember that we set the enemies contest scoring option. Now what that means is that if there are enemies in this area, the score won't tick up. So let's move the enemy team in, and we can see the score is no longer ticking up. If we move out, you'll see the enemy team will begin to gain a score, and you can see that we have 20 out of 50 on the heads up display. Go back in again, and that contests the scoring. Nobody can score while there are players of opposing teams in there. So let's remove this guy, let's get rid of him. There are no enemies in this area. And there we go, the score's ticking up to 50. And as we know in the win condition, we set the first team to 50 points is the winner. So there we go, the basics of a King of the Hill type game in Fortnite Creative. And as we said, as we discussed, this is probably the minimum settings that you need to create a King of the Hill type game, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what key attributes you need to set in the capture area device in order to set a King of the Hill type game up. Okay, so we've built ourselves a basic King of the Hill level. Now on most of our videos, when we build something like this, we just go through at the end and come up with a few more ideas on how we can add a few extra bits to your level. Now the King of the Hill level in Fortnite Creative doesn't strictly have to be one where there's a single area in the middle of the level. You can copy this area and create multiple areas that have to be captured. And this is dead easy to do. All we need to do is select our existing capture area and copy it and drop it elsewhere in the level. Now we know that the attributes have already been set on the first King of the Hill capture area we made, so the attributes have been copied across to the other two, and the other two will behave in exactly the same way. If we start the game and run through an example match, you'll see how the scoring will work for this. Okay, so now the simple addition is we have 3 areas in which our players can try and contest to gain scores, and you can see that the score's ticking up, but as the other team enters the other area, one of the newly placed areas we've put down, their score will also be ticking up. So it just adds a little extra complexity to your level and gives you an idea of how you can expand on a simple King of the Hill type level. So there we go, we've got 3 control areas on this King of the Hill match. Now that's all well and good, but you'll notice on much bigger levels, on professional levels, on other games, the control areas can sometimes be named, which then pops a message up on the heads-up display informing enemy or friendly teams the status of the other areas. Now you can add extra elements to the capture areas, and to do that you just go in, change the attributes, and we need to go down through the all options. It's a heads up element, and this adds an additional element above the capture area. So if we set that to badge and OK that, you'll see there's like a green square above it with nothing on it. Now if we go back in, we can give the capture area an objective identifier. So we, for example, could call this objective A. If we go out, we'll see there is an A badge above this capture area, and we can do the same for the other 2. So there we go, 3 control areas, A, B and C. And you'll notice that if we move far away, the badge disappears. And again, that setting, should you want to change it, can be changed in the attributes. It's called requires line of sight. So does the player have to be looking at the capture area to see the badge? And from what distance does the badge disappear? And you can change that there, but we're going to leave those as the defaults. So we've got 3 control points or capture areas or control areas labelled A, B and C. Now we want each of these areas to transmit when they will generate a score for whichever player or players are in it. And to do this, we need to equip a HUD messaging device, which is a heads-up display messaging device. We've seen this in some other videos that we've done. If we place that down, and for simplicity's sake we're going to put them next to our control areas. They can be anywhere in the level, but we're going to put them next to our control areas. And we go in and we change the attributes, and you can see we can apply a message, and we want that message to broadcast when this particular control point is being contested or when it's gaining a score for a team. So if we go in there and put a simple message in, there we go, point A is being scored. We want the message to be received by all players. We can set that to enemies or friendly players or the player that triggered it, or even a particular team number. We're going to set that to all. We don't want that message to appear after the round starts, so we'll turn that off. But crucially, we're going to set it to show when it receives a signal from channel 1. And we've seen in other videos on our channel that the channels that exist within Fortnite are very powerful tools to trigger multiple events within our levels. So I'm going to set that to channel 1. And if we go into our advanced options, there are other options that you can change, such as the style of the text, the priority of the message. Critical messages will always appear before or in front of normal priority messages. And we can play a sound. We're going to turn that off. So set up the messaging for control area A. What we can do is just simply copy this messaging device over to control area C. We can go in, let's copy over all the attributes to save us a lot of time. We're going to set it all up over again. So all we need to change is the message and the channel. Let's set that to channel 3, control point C. We also need to change the attributes in control point C under channels, so when the area is scored, transmit on channel 3. And we need to do the same on control point B. So let's start the game and let's see how the messaging works. So we can see the messaging that says point A is being scored. The other team runs into point C, and you can see there's a message indicating that point C is being scored. And these messages will continue to broadcast every time the score of 5 is awarded to the players for being there in those areas. And of course, we've got contest area on, so as long as there is an enemy player in this area, the messages won't broadcast because no one's scoring a point. So there you go, we've got the basics of a King of the Hill level. We've expanded on that to include 3 control areas, and each control area will broadcast a message to all players on the game when the area is being scored. So hopefully this has given you some ideas and some inspiration for your own levels, and thank you for watching.